So, Rewatchers, a warning before we dive into this one. This episode stars adult film star Traci Lords. And as a result, we make a lot of jokes about her films, and some of the language that might be used is a little different than what we normally do. So if that kind of discussion of that kind of thing bothers you, this might not be the best episode for you. And I apologize as the main offender.
But if you do think that stuff is funny, buckle up, because it'll be a fun ride, which might be the name of one of her
movies.
We can't do a joke in the disclaimer.
That joke was fairly innocent.
Reasonably.
Yes. Enjoy the episode, everybody.
Been around a long time, Rich.
400 years, I'd say that's quite a bit of time, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel even older than that. I've seen so many things. I've fought so many battles. People become part of your life and then they just die. It all stays with you, Rich. You live with it. Their hopes, their dreams, their pain, their love.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Highlander Rewatch, the podcast where each and every week, the three of us, your rewatchers, revisit our favorite franchise from the late 80s and early 90s, Highlander. Each and every week, we discuss a different portion of the Highlander universe in detail. I am one of your rewatchers, Keith.
This is Kyle.
This is Eamon.
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good.
Bernie Sanders?
So before we jump into this week's episode, we wanted to talk about some of the reader mail we got from one of our previous episodes where we asked the question, is life worth living if you can't die? So we've got a bunch of responses via our email and our Facebook, so I thought I'd read some of them aloud to you guys.
Yeah.
Matthew W. wrote, of course, first I submit that immortals are humans because they plagued with the same insecurities, obsessions, and pitfalls as mortals. Case in point, oftentimes immortals are not able to see immortality for the gift it truly is. You are afforded the time to see this world and this life for what it truly is. See other cultures, other minds, other lands. Experience the diversity of people and maybe find out that although on the surface we are different, deep down we're all the same. You can gain an experience and that only mortals can dream of because you have the time, the means, and little fear of death or injury.
That's a pretty thoughtful answer.
Yeah.
So immortals can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. What does that expression mean?
You can't see the forest through the tree, you can't see the big picture. All you see are these.
You see the individual trees. You don't know. You don't realize that you're in a system.
Am I stupid?
Yep. Yes. That's our theory. Jill writes, in my personal opinion, simply not being able to grow old and die should not be a reason for life not being worth living. Highlander immortals do have an out, though, if they really can't stand it. While you can make a choice, live, discover, play, love. Also, in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. Thanks, Jill. Zach O. writes, Jill says it well. Eternal life comes down to what you choose to make of it. Not every mortal is lucky enough to get that chance. And Kim E. writes, I don't think it's worth it if you don't have someone that's immortal with you. While you could conceivably see and do everything you ever wanted, it would just get depressing outliving everyone and knowing you're alone. Constantly starting the cycle over and over of who you let into your life, explain your secret, watch them die, and then repeat. Forever. Sounds exhausting and lonely. Thanks, Kim. My reading of that made no sense. That was like if an alien came down and tried to read a human sentence, not knowing what it was. Like someone just phonetically told them what those words were.
Vince S. writes, if you had no way of dying and kept going on, I don't know if I would want that. But in Highlander universe, there is a chance you could die, so that's different. But the anxiety of always having to be ready for another immortal to come upon you would be hard at first to deal with.
That's interesting, because the existence of other immortals trying to kill you is an interesting wrinkle to this. Because one, it does mean that you do have some fear of death. So that's something that kind of is humanizing and connects you to it. But that must be so unbelievably stressful. Like in our lives, like I'm not worried that just categorically there's a group of people trying to kill me that might find me at any moment.
Right. Yeah, there's not a day-to-day fear of death, really.
Yeah, like it must be like being in like a gang war 24/7, right? Like that's the best example of like a human that I can think of, that like there's just an entire class of other people who actively wants to destroy you regardless of what you're doing in any given moment.
Yeah, it's like you're a fugitive, like simply by living.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, at any time you could just be, you know, I don't know, you could be like going to the bathroom at a gas station and like feel the buzz and have to worry about having to sword fight somebody. It's worrisome. Liz S. writes, on a personal level, immortality would be punishing, seeing loved ones grow old and die, dealing with the constant change in the world around you. But on a grander level, I keep thinking of the experiences to be had and the contributions an older, experienced immortal could make to the world. For that reason, I really appreciate the immortals in the series who try to make themselves helpful to others.
Right, like you could one day invent a giant dome that protects the world from ozone depletion.
Yes.
right.
So, should we hop into this week's episode, guys?
Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
fuck.
So, thank you everybody for joining us. This week's episode is Season 2, Episode 4, The Darkness. This first aired on Monday, October 18th, 1993. This was directed by Paolo Barzman.
Yeah.
We've seen him before. He did Avenging Angel, which we were divided on.
Yeah, strangely divided.
And The Hunters, which we all, I think, pretty much liked.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good episode. And he's got a bunch more to come. I think he's got 10 more in the pipeline.
He has 13 episodes total. That's pretty cool.
This episode was written by Christian Boveron and Lawrence Shore. They both wrote the episode Eye of the Beholder previously, which is another one I think that was like pretty decent season 1 episode. But Lawrence Shore, he's the guy, we mentioned him on a previous podcast, that directed the movie Hanukkah Hoops.
Oh, right.
Which I was visiting the IMDb page for that. It has a new release date, which is 2018, and also a new subtitle, which is Hanukkah Hoops, A Shot in the Light.
Oh.
So I cannot wait to see that.
2018?
2018.
Jeez.
I could dunk for 8 crazy nights.
So this episode has a couple guest stars. It guest stars Andrew Jackson as Palin Wolf. He's done a ton of episodic TV. He's kind of one of those Northwest actors that you just see all the time and stuff. So, and it also stars Miss Traci Lords as Greta. You may have seen her in, I don't know, 1984's What Gets Me Hot. Also in 1984, A Night of Loving Dangerously. 86's Beverly Hills Copulator, 1984's Talk Dirty to Me, Part 3. Maybe it was the Pony Girl from 85, or Sex Shoot, or Sex Fifth Avenue, or Portrait of Lust, or Pony Girl Number 2, or Physical 2, or Perfect Fit, or Peekaboo Gang,
Okay.
or Sex Waves. Nope. Any of these?
Well,
So for those who aren't following, Traci Lord was a pornographic actress in the early 80s who made a transition into being an actor and a singer and an artist and a bunch of other different things. Also caused a massive scandal because she shot some of those pornographic films while underage.
all of them but one.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's really
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, to be fair to Miss Lords, she is in a lot of legitimate movies too. She's had a pretty profound career.
No, she has, yeah.
After that, but you know,
Okay, so we're going to play a little game here. Traci Lords has an eclectic filmography, some of which were adult films, some of which were not. So we're going to see if Keith and Eamon can tell the difference between Traci Lords' non-pornographic movies and her adult films. Here we go! The Nut House or Breaking It?
oh no.
When you say legitimate movie,
Which one of these is a non-pornographic film? The Nut House or Breaking It?
Keith, you guess first.
I'll say Breaking It.
Is the real movie?
Yeah.
I'll just play devil's advocate and say the Nut House.
The correct answer is The Nut House.
Yeah. Highlander slam dunk. Highlander slam Duncan.
Oh. Oh, man.
Which one of these is not a pornographic film? Drag Strip Girl or Talk Dirty to Me?
I'm gonna say Talk Dirty to Me is not the X-rated movie.
I'll say the
Pacino.
I'll say the drag strip.
Drag Strip Girl is correct.
Oh, huh.
And we'll just do one last one. Which one of these is, again, not porn? Is it Point of Entry?
Oh my god. Or Point of Entry 2.
Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah.
Or Hot Cum Orgy?
So I think Hot Cum Orgy is the legitimate film.
Jeez. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's the other one. Whatever the other one was.
Yeah, Point of Entry. Not porn.
Oh, man.
Very good.
That was good.
Yeah. So this week's episode description from IMDb is Duncan proposes marriage to Tessa, but can he escape a long ago curse? As well as a mortal who uses her as bait.
Excuse me?
This is the This is the most off point.
So I did not read this description before we recorded this, and well, we'll get to it in the episode, but I never thought of Duncan having a curse put on him, and we need to
me
talk about
neither.
that later, because that's crazy.
Reminiscent.
I think that's false.
Yeah.
So
This episode opens with like a completely new kind of credits sequence. Like it's like
Yeah.
Matrixy font.
what? Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be his night vision goggles.
But they've never done anything like this before, where they've gotten like creative with the opening titles.
And nothing striking in my mind that they do this in the future. It's
Yeah.
weird.
I-
This had the look of like, I wonder if this was packaged like a movie in the original run or
Yeah.
something like that. Like there's some reason they set it apart. I don't know, because it's so puzzling.
I like this. I like that. To me, it did make it kind of more cinematic, and I thought it was interesting, and kind of how they were, like, usually in the beginning of these TV shows, they like sprinkle the credits in like a trail of breadcrumbs.
Right.
But here they were like just showing it up front, but there are little snippets of things happening.
It is like a
between
creepy
the
beginning.
names. Yeah, I thought
Like
it was pretty.
screaming and it's
Yeah.
whooshing sounds.
I thought it was effective. Now I'll say the font choice and the weird making it green didn't really look very good.
No,
But
especially the way it like swooshed in and out.
Yeah.
like the font kind of crackles into and out of view in this green
I
color.
think if they went with a good sans serif font instead of this weird serif font, it didn't look right.
We're back on font rewatch.
Yeah.
We've talked about fonts quite a bit on this show.
But like as a technique, I thought it was effective, and I thought it prepared me for the right mood for this episode.
Yeah. So the opening of this is, we don't get too much. We get
Yeah.
clues. It's like a night vision sort of thing. It's all POV, and somebody's tied up in a room, and we know a watcher is doing something. 'Cause
Right.
We see their tattoo.
We see the tattoo, but yeah, it's a POV shot. There's a woman tied to a chair, and there's a weird like Twin Peaks tiled floor. Yeah.
It is very Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get the
Yeah.
impression that she's being used as bait to catch, I guess, her boyfriend who's immortal.
Where we find out his name is James.
James!
Yep.
Don't do it, James.
And the guy, the kidnapper, he's like touching her face and head in
Yeah,
a
it's really-
really,
it's really
so
creepy.
creepy.
way.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about that later. We'll cover that later. But yeah, it's really creepy.
So James shows up in a white turtleneck. Looking
has
sharp.
It like, do all immortals wear turtlenecs? Grayson wore a turtleneck. Patone wore a turtleneck. Mac frequently wears turtlenecs.
I think-
or is it just a '90s?
I think it's like cool
It's a
guys in the
90s
90s are wearing
wore turtlenecks.
wore turtlenecks. Yeah, I think so.
Good guys wear turtlenecks.
And double-breasted suits with giant lapels.
That's right, Dave Lapel.
Jesus Christ.
So this guy, Andrew Jackson, who's there in the house, he's a total creep.
Yep.
I'm talking about the president now, not
Yeah.
not the hunter.
Well, he's like saying things like, "Do you ever wear red dresses?" And like,
It's like, what? Like,
why are you doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, he seems to be taking like sick pleasure out of this. Like it's about more than just him being like one of the hunters
Right.
after Immortals. Like
Right.
he's got other problems too.
Right.
That he
Yeah.
just likes kidnapping and torturing women.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's using her as bait, and he's done this before. Right. The immortal shows up. and he's-
James. The immortal James.
And
In
he's
the words of the immortal James.
yeah. And he finds this room where he meets this guy.
So Andrew Jackson has a totally sweet night vision goggle set up, and the POV shot we initially saw, we didn't quite specify. He's in the green nightosphere vision. Then when he pulls it down, and we get that POV shot of his like watcher symbol, and he's clearly going to use this to great advantage. He tells the girl that he beats immortals because he cheats.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, James comes to rescue his girlfriend, and they end up in this like kind of dark room.
It's like an arena almost.
Yeah.
It looks like or a ring.
So the advantage this guy has is that he shuts off all the lights, uses his night vision, and then kills the other immortal.
With a sword.
With a sword. So he dispatches James pretty quickly.
He like pokes him in the back a couple times, which it's like, this guy's like turning around for some reason. It's like, you knew where he was. Like, maybe you should try listening to him instead of like twirling around in circles. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
Do you think he teleported behind you? Like, did you get dizzy? Like, what happened?
So that's our exciting introduction to the villain, and I guess what will become the plot of this episode. So then we cut to a club sort of place, bar.
It's like a bar, pool hall, or something.
And so Richie's hanging out with Traci Lords, and she's like a fortune teller.
Yeah.
So she's reading his fortune, which is that he's not going to have any luck with the ladies, which I thought was kind of funny.
The mysterious Greta, and they are in the darkest club on the planet. Like, I know this episode is called The Darkness, but oh my god, this episode is so dark that I feel like 40% of the shots in this episode, like, it's that extreme, are too dark, like are ruined by how dark they are. And this entire sequence, way too dark. Like, you really can't see anything. I felt like I squinted through this entire episode.
So Tess leans over to Duncan. They're also at a table
they're
drinking.
there too. Yeah.
And Tess is like, "Hey, baby, do you see anything you like here?" And my first thought was, I was like, "Are they trying to pick up a swinging buddy?" I was like, "Is that where this is going?"
They're trying to get a third.
No, Tess is just fishing for compliments.
So they're basically going to leave this bar and go bump uglies.
Which I've never really thought about that idiom of bumping uglies. Does that mean like your dick is your ugly? Like that's an ugly?
I think so.
I don't know.
But like, is there like a singular of that?
I don't know. Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. So Richie brings Greta over, and Greta wants to read Duncan and Tess's palms or whatever. So she reads Tess's palm, and she gets these crazy visions.
She's like, I'm Greta. I'm the seventh daughter of the seventh son.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there like, ugh.
You fraud. Or is she? So she gets this crazy vision. It's all like squiggle vision and stuff. And we see some violent images, kind of, and yelling and...
There's some tiled floors, blood, this weird grinning man, and then the opening of a James Bond sequence with a gunshot and blood pouring down the title of the screen.
Yeah, I was just thinking, bam, 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 bam.
Daniel Craig stumbles out.
So Greta warns Tess that she's like, gotta get out of town because something bad's happening. And she really spooks Tess out.
Yeah, she does this thing twice, right? And she's like, whoa, what was that? Like, it's kind of hammy, and the whole thing is bizarre.
Yeah.
And my entire notes are just like, wait. Does this show contemplate that Traci Lord has actual psychic powers? Because what? What?
So they decide they're going to leave because Tess is feeling uncomfortable about what this woman has said to her. And Duncan gives her a speech about how we decide our own fate. Should we listen to this little clip?
Yeah.
Come on. Don't let it bother you.
She seemed so upset. What about the swords? How could she know about that?
Or maybe it was a coincidence. Or maybe she really did have a psychic experience and caught a glimpse of our life together.
Duncan's on board right away.
It scared me.
Hey, Tess, nothing's written in stone. Whatever she saw or didn't see, we decide our future, and it's whatever we want it to be.
Hold me. I love you, Duncan.
I love you too, sweetheart.
Aww.
No, just foreshadowing. Does this mean that this show also contemplates some kind of predetermination? Excuse me? Like,
Good question, because actually what Duncan says there is almost contradictory, because he's like, maybe she did see a vision of our future. We decide our own fates. It's like, it's one or the other, right?
No, saw a vision of our lives together is what he says. And obviously he fights with swords all the goddamn time.
That's true.
But that being said, she does have a vision, and what he says ends up being false. Like, oh no, she did see the future. Spoiler alert, Tess gets a James Bond moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question, Kyle. I know from seeing the show does kind of get into that territory about fate and prophecies down the road. But this is certainly some new territory for the show to be in. It's subtle, I suppose, but it's new. So then we get this crazy flashback that's ridiculous. Duncan is in a gypsy camp in 1848, and he's macking it with Carmen.
Yeah.
She's a swell looker.
Yeah, she's a lovely lady, and she is not lovely at acting.
So she reads Duncan's palm.
Like, I thought it was pretty stealthily. Aren't they just like making out?
Oh yeah, and she reads it like while they're smooching.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, you're multitasking here.
Well, and then she just sort of like flips out.
Tries to stab him.
Yeah.
Because by reading his palm, she determines that he's never going to marry.
Right, and he's going to have lots of lovers.
Yeah. So she's like, you're a terrible person. I thought you wanted to marry me.
Right.
And so then she demands, like, her brother fight this guy to the death. It's like,
This escalates so quickly.
Yeah.
It's also like, oh, I touched his hand, and then I realized, oh, and what's best is like her brother Roman Polanski. No, just Roman. Roman's like, well, let's keep a cool head about this. Grandma, is this true? like, check it. You check his hand, and she's like, oh, checks out.
Yeah.
Checks out.
But then he's like, all right, you raped my sister.
yeah, what's that?
Yeah, it gets so crazy.
Yeah, and
weird.
he challenges Duncan to like a tied hand knife fight.
If he doesn't marry her on the spot.
Yeah.
And like cuts his face about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is so bonkers.
But then as quickly as this escalates, it de-escalates just as quickly, and everything's fine, and Duncan just has to leave.
Yeah. Duncan uses his ribbon cutting power, where he just like cuts the scarf he tied their hands together with, which by the way was a very long scarf. Like you could get like a good 5 feet away from someone on this scarf. So interesting knife fight. But
Yeah.
So after this flashback, we're back in the present at this club, and I guess Duncan...
Oh, wait, we don't want to gloss over what she says to him. So what's her name? Carmen? Carmen, as Duncan's leaving, I guess curses her, but not really.
She yells, like, you're gonna, like, have many lovers, but marry none.
Yeah.
Or something. Or
you're
gonna lose...
and you'll like bury hundreds of women or something
Right.
like that.
So anyway, I just thought this was her reading his fortune. But
Yeah.
after reading that IMDb description written by who knows who on the internet,
Yeah.
I never even considered that this was a curse.
No, false. Wrong. Because she's upset with him for that very reason.
Right.
Yeah, so that
So
doesn't make
she
any
could not
sense.
have been the one that cursed him.
Yeah. So we come out of this flashback back to the club, and I guess what this Greta has told him and Duncan reconsidering this thing in the past about him not marrying has made him a little sentimental, and he wants to tie the knot with Tess.
Yeah.
And so he proposes via song, via musical number. He's like, will you marry me?
Will you marry me? And he's like on his knees with his arms wide open. It's kind of funny, actually. It's cute.
I like this part. But then he's like asking straight. She's like, what do you think? Should she marry me? Should she marry me?
It's ridiculous. It's so great. Yeah, he's like, yeah, everybody, like, get involved in this.
But
like,
I buy it. I buy his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like, he really is like, he's jazzed about this idea.
Right. Again, another weird tonal shift. Like, they get engaged, and then Duncan's like, I gotta go. Like,
Yeah, he sees someone
sees
watching him.
people watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes to like see what their deal is. And then he runs into Richie and tells Richie that he's engaged to Tess now. And Richie's reaction is really weird.
he's like, well, why now? Like, what's up with that? Like,
We all know why.
Yeah, because Richie and Tess have this whole side piece going on.
Yeah. Richie's
I
like,
actually
oh, you're
thought
getting
that.
married? Like, oh, I'm sad.
Well, he's like, don't you think that's kind of weird? Like, why now? Or no, Tess tells Richie.
yeah. But still, Richie
It's
thinks
still
it's
a
weird.
strange reaction. Yeah.
And he's practically just like, but come on.
Does this mean we can still do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, sure. You're a virile young lover.
After this, we kind of see the afterglow of Tess and Duncan in bed, and they're kind of hanging out, and Tess is wondering what it would have been like if they had never met and what fate's all about. It's an interesting conversation. The gang is hanging out like on the balcony or catwalk at the antique store, just drinking, day drinking
some white wine and chilling out, and Richie's again like, well, you guys are getting married? Like, can I be best man? Don't leave me out, guys.
Yeah, and so they're talking about the store, I guess, is opening back up tomorrow. Big grand opening or something. Which is, I guess, exciting, although, not to spoil things, but what happens with this? Like, this just disappears.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, we're going to open the store, and then as we find out in the next couple episodes, like, I don't know what happened. Like, I guess it's just done.
Mac notices that somebody is watching, and he pulls some awesome Batman shit. Because, like, Richie and Tess are, like, turned to the side, and Mac just, whoosh, drops off. And they're like, what happened to back. Like, it's awesome. I like really thought that was fun.
And then they go on this wild foot chase through Seacouver.
Duncan, like, actually smashes someone's windshield. Did anyone notice that? Like,
No.
at one point during this chase, he runs, or it's a stunt guy, he runs over a car. And I had to watch it in slow motion. I was like, holy shit, what happened to that window? And, like, his boot, like, cracks the window, like, pretty bad.
That shot is awesome.
Yeah.
That is, like, a budget-defying shot, I felt like, because, like, the camera kind of, like, sweeps to the side. The stuntman or Adrian or whoever it is, like, sprints up this station wagon and just tears off the side of it. It's like an awesome, like, parkour jump and just drills the guy who was following him. It's a totally sweet shot. I watched it like 3 times.
Yeah.
So we find out that this is all a diversion tactic, it would seem. So a goon comes in, I guess the guy from the beginning, Andrew Jackson, he comes into the antique store, tases the shit out of Richie.
POV shot. Like, so these are so weird. Like, I guess they felt like they needed to reflect the night vision in some way, so they introduced this, like, POV mechanic for Martin Van Buren. Excuse me, Andrew Jackson. And it just is odd. Though seeing a POV of him getting tasered is Richie
epic.
Ryan getting tasered is fantastic.
And then they kidnap Tess.
And the guy that Duncan was chasing has a buddy who pulls up on a motorcycle.
And they scoot away.
Get away.
Yeah. So eventually Duncan returns back to the antique store and he finds Richie laying on the ground. And Richie, like, mumbles his way through what happened. It's awesome. Let's listen to Richie's dumb talk.
What happened? Oh, Mac, your guy comes in here and zapped me in the neck.
What guy?
I don't know. Big guy.
What are you
guy,
doing?
blonde hair.
Where's Tessa?
I don't know.
Our 7th president.
Mac, I'm sorry.
She came in and said what happened.
I just have a feeling I've just been set up.
Like the British at the Battle of New Orleans.
Mac, this guy comes in here.
How many Andrew Jackson jokes do you think we can cram into this episode? Hey Rewatchers, this is Kyle reminding you to follow us on Facebook, and you know what, while you're at it, you should subscribe to our podcast through iTunes. That's by far the easiest way to listen to us, and automatically, every time we get a new episode, boop, it'll appear right on your phone. So make sure you subscribe to us, and while you're at it, give us a nice, juicy 5-star review.
Tess is all tied up at this, like, I don't know, house, I guess. It's all night vision again. This is just like the opening.
And Andrew Jackson is now explaining to Tess his motivations for this whole thing. So he's clearly one of the hunters. Mm-hmm. He, she's like, he'll stop you. And he's like, he's not a he, he's an it.
At this point of the episode, I had some, like, weird questions. Like, Joe Dawson is not in this episode.
No.
And this is... We'll see in an episode or two from now. We watched the episode The Zone, in which Joe is in.
Yeah.
It's so it's
insane.
And he has no business being in that episode, but he should absolutely be in this episode that deals with hunters. So, like,
right.
I don't know.
And they don't mention, like, Horton doesn't come up at all. Mm-mm. I thought Horton was kind of the one that was orchestrating all these rogue watchers.
Yeah, it would have been nice just to, even a throwaway line mentioning, like, I'm going to carry on what he did. Like, if somebody else was taking up Horton's quest. It's really weird. Also, at this point, like, we have met, like, no good watchers at all. Like,
we've met Joe.
We've met Joe.
And we've sort of met Josh.
And we don't really know what Josh is. But
he died.
If I was
KIA.
Yeah. If I was Duncan, I would absolutely not trust Joe at all.
Well,
like,
he still doesn't.
I guess not.
Fair.
But I mean, I think the show needs to kind of show some better good watchers and work on that relationship a little bit.
Because
at this point, it is nothing but, like, even as the viewer, I think I'm like, what's the deal? Like, I don't know if I trust Joe either. I don't know. Like,
I would think he was a bad guy.
Yeah, that this is all some ruse. But
yeah, I wish there was, like, some nod to Horton or something here.
Yeah, well, he mentions that there's like that these people are still out there, right? Because he says, my friends would say I'm like a hero for killing this guy, but not me. I just get off on it.
Yeah,
right.
This guy gets his jollies from this whole spiel of entrapping immortals and their lovers.
Yeah, and also we don't know what happened to his girlfriend. Like,
right.
Yeah, and I shudder to think based on just how creepy this guy is.
Yeah.
Bad news. Tess ends up calling Duncan, like there's a ransom call, I guess, and she's like, it's a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap.
Rest in peace, voice of Admiral Akbar. He
that's right. He died
passed away recently.
Yeah.
Well, that really bums me out.
Does it?
Sad. He also did the voice of Bib Fortuna, which I didn't know.
Interesting.
Did Jabba no bother?
He is no Jedi.
Yikes. So
Zeist.
one of my favorite scenes now happens when Tess calls Duncan to warn him it's a trap and to tell him about like this whole thing, like I'm being held hostage or whatever. Richie finds her earring on the floor and it's like, look, Duncan, a clue. This is the earring she was wearing when she got kidnapped. And it's like, what? Like, first off, that's not a clue. Like, what was this? He's so excited. He's like a little kid. He's like, look, I found it. Like, this will help. And it's like, what are you how is that going to help anything? Unless Richie is thinking ahead that, hey, you should take this to a psychic to see what kind of clues this will bring. Like, this is so nuts. It's so dumb.
This entire thing is basically Duncan MacLeod, kid detective. Like, it makes no sense because his entire plan, again, he knows Joe Dawson and he knows that there's a group of mortals that might be out to get him. And rather than trying to contact this clear lead and, I don't know, doing some real legwork, he decides that he wants to go to like a magic woman. Like, that's his plan. It's like, oh, this person said something ominous before she was kidnapped. This must be it.
And also, like, the stakes are fairly low, I feel like, because it's not like Duncan needs to beat the clock or anything. Like, Tess is being held because they want Duncan. Like, unless Duncan's worried about them, like, legitimately killing her, like, very soon. Like,
Which I think is a perfectly
which is
reasonable
fair, but
concern.
I mean, like, they are going to let him know where they are.
Well, but
That's
I don't know.
a structural problem with this episode.
Yeah.
Because Duncan goes through a lot of steps, which I'm sure we will discuss in excruciating detail, to find where they are. And right as he does, like simultaneously, this guy's like, hey, why don't you come to exactly where I am?
Yeah. So, yeah, it all just kind of made it moot. Like, all the weird detective work he did didn't matter.
Duncan's advantage is, like, written out of the episode.
Yeah.
Which,
Encyclopedia MacLeod.
Yeah, which, I mean... As a tactician, I get why Duncan wants to kind of get the drop on this person and find out where he is. But then the writers undo that completely.
Because that would have been better if he got to them before this guy was ready for him.
Right.
This felt like one of those things where it's like almost yada, yada, yada in between everything, where it's like, this is exactly what's going to happen, and we are going to show little snippets in between, but they don't affect the ending.
Right.
Like, none of the intermediate steps that are taken to solve the kidnapping or Tessa's attempts to escape ultimately affect the resolution of the episode.
Is this a really meta episode? Because the episode structure...
Metasode?
Yeah. The episode structure is demonstrating how fatalistic the plot is. Oh, I do not think they thought about that.
I don't think so either, but that's kind of accurate.
I feel like they just scheduled Jim Burns' schedule wrong and was like, oh, we can't use him on this episode, so we have to like cook up this whole side thing.
Yeah.
So, by the way, additional magic is real. Traci Lords is a pornographic psychic, and...
The psychic stuff...
I have more jokes about this. I'm not going to make them.
The psychic stuff doesn't bother me for some reason.
Really?
I mean, the plot points you guys are bringing up, which somehow I didn't think of when I watched the episode, do bother me that Joe isn't involved in this at all. It did put me off that Horton is never mentioned, but the psychic stuff doesn't bother me for some reason.
It doesn't bother me if handled differently.
Sure.
It's so throwaway, and it's such a minor part of what this show is. And it's like Greta, a porn psychic, gives Mac his number. Like, why isn't he always going back to her? Like, Greta,
that
magic.
Bugged me.
It's
yeah,
like,
that
Greta,
bugged me.
we know magic is straight up goddamn real. Help me. Like, you can solve every problem I have more effectively than my computer hacking skills. So...
Yeah. I was actually wondering, watching this, do you think at any point they considered having Traci Lords as a regular?
It's possible.
Because I wondered the same thing.
Well,
it's
they
like,
set it up that she's going to be.
Yeah.
And then she never comes back.
No.
Right?
So I was kind of wondering if she was supposed to be like maybe a new love interest or something, because she had some name recognition and could maybe kind of help with the plot a little bit.
She comes back for the Darkness 2 executions on Butt Row.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry. Is that too much?
That's awesome.
Butt Row.
I feel like this show needs somebody that wrote on like Columbo or something. Like, No, like I keep trying to introduce these like kind of
mystery elements.
Yeah, these mystery and detective-y sort of things, but it seems like they're always like kind of missing the mark. Like they need like someone that's like really steeped in like a procedural television to be writing some of these mysteries, because I think that's like the weakest part of this episode. Like this could be great if the mystery was at least a mystery,
or just if Columbo was just in the episode.
I love that.
Columbo is Andrew Jackson.
If Columbo was on
just
this
do this
show,
thing because I get off on it.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. I'm turning the lights off.
By John S. Morgenstern. That's the author of The Princess Bride.
Oh, I could see you getting too excited.
So Duncan gets some clues from Traci Lords.
Which, again, let me just complain about how dark this entire scene is. They're in like some bar, like pool hall kind of thing, and it's all backlit, and you can't see anybody's face.
Yeah, this might as well be shot in silhouette.
Yeah,
it's like it basically was. It's crazy. Yeah,
it's insane, and it's like I know the episode is called The Darkness, but come on.
Well, they go through this whole back and
Darkness
forth.
3, come on. It's gonna keep going, just so you know.
Well, like they have this whole back and forth interaction, which it repeats at least 2 more times in the episode, where Duncan's like, "Come on, hold the earring. Tell me what you see." "No, I don't want to." "Do it." "No, I don't want to." "Do it." "Okay, what'd you see?" "Oh, I don't know. It was nothing. Just go into detail." "No, I don't want to." "Okay, just tell me something." "Okay, I saw this, and this." "Oh, wait, those are all really important." Like.
So let's talk about those really important things she sees during this vision.
The link between these two things is mind-blowing.
So she sees some animal heads on a wall.
Yeah.
That's the clue. Mm-hmm. The raging hard clue she gets.
A raging bull.
We then cut to a taxidermy store, and there's some funny dialogue here.
Yeah,
the guy's
love this taxidermy man.
Yeah, he's great. He's like,
nope,
they
Chuck Testa.
they ain't killing animals like they used to. And Duncan's like, that's too bad, isn't it? Like, it's really great.
What's it kill, birds or beasts? Darkness 4, birds or beasts.
Oh, man. So Duncan is looking for a tall blonde, which I guess was also mentioned in her vision.
Right.
And so he goes to a taxidermy store, and it's like, have you seen a tall blonde? It's like, this is so paper thin. It's crazy.
Yep. But like, I feel like this could have been, again, if they want to do this psychic thing, like, I actually don't think this is a terrible plan, because how many people honestly go to taxidermists?
Right.
Like, that is actually a fair point. Like,
although this does make the leap that he got those done like recently, and it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like that he was an active participant in getting animals taxidermy.
There's a chance, though.
Yeah, sure. But there is like at least something.
Yes.
The thing that bothers me about it is that it works. In quotes,
right?
Because he just notices that he's being followed, like
by the same guy. That did the diversion,
who already is a professional watcher and is clearly terrible at it.
Is he a watcher?
Oh,
we don't know.
I don't know.
I think we're supposed to assume so, but I don't. It's never expressly said. I don't think.
Right. Although, does he get spotted on purpose because they're trying to lure Duncan back?
It could be.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
To what?
Well, he
to
doesn't
what
have
end?
his partner.
Yeah, because he also doesn't have like a good escape plan. As we'll find out.
As he gets smoked by Mac.
But yeah, Kyle, you are right. This entire scene is undone by the fact that
like every bit of work Duncan MacLeod Kid Detective does gets completely just like
undone.
Just Deus Ex Machina by the plot.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, nope, now this happens.
Yep.
Like, nothing, there's no seamless thread. It's like, and now this, and now this, and now this. It's
Duncan
like,
could have just been at the grocery store and spotted this guy spying on him. And
right.
it would have had the same conclusion.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
so like,
silly.
there's this entire plot point of, look at this earring, look at my clue, nothing.
Yeah. But I thought this chase was actually kind of fun.
This
is good.
Great.
Yeah. This is a good one.
This is really good stunt work. Like, and like Kyle said, it like kind of transcends a lot of the similar stunt work we've seen in this show. Like this is a good foot chase.
Yeah, it was shot well. Like it had some.
It's exciting.
Yeah. This chase sadly has a sad end for.
Yeah, and a sad under the fire escape shot. They're running up this fire escape, and it's probably the least interesting shot in this episode because all you can see is just like, obviously, you know, a standard fire escape is like these metal grates that are only semi-translucent, like you can only kind of see through them. So you just see feet kind of like clacking out as they go up the steps, and it's again really dark, and it's like, what is the point of these shots? These are so uninteresting. I don't know. I don't have a lot of issues with the way connective tissue in this episode worked.
So Duncan captures this guy at the top of the fire escape, and the guy tries to stab him, but Duncan like pushes him off him, and the railing breaks on the fire escape, and this guy falls to his death. Womp womp.
They ran through a super crowded area, and for some reason now this area is not crowded, but like a bunch of people just saw Mac chasing this man, and now he's dead in the middle of the street. So
That's true. Leave that.
I mean, we'll just leave that there. We'll just throw that under the rug.
At the very least, they have one concrete eyewitness, the taxidermist, who saw Mac run out of his store to chase this guy who was walking into his store.
Yeah, and it couldn't have been that far away. They couldn't have run for that long.
Right.
Very good point.
So
this whole thing's a little odd. It's like,
So in the next scene, this next scene, which I like a lot, is cut in the U.S. version. Which is really strange because this deals with, I think, this is the clip we actually played at the top of the episode.
This may be the most important part of the episode.
Yeah, this might be like kind of the emotional core of the episode is in this scene. So Richie shows up at the park and brings Duncan a file or something.
What is in this file?
Yep. Who knows? We're not sure. But I guess Richie was sent on some mission to get this file.
He just brings back the Quentin Barnes file, which is equally as useless.
So then, this is my favorite part of this interaction is...
You want some soda?
Richie's like, hey, Duncan, what's up? And Duncan's like, I just killed somebody that could have led us to Tess. And he's like... it's crazy you're getting married, right? Like, it's like, what? That's not the next question. Also, that's not even like, he has like this bro down, ho down with Mac on this, like in this park. And it's like, I don't think this is the sort of conversation you should be having when his fiance is kidnapped. Like, let's save it, Richie. Did you just skip over the part where Duncan's like, I just killed somebody? And like, this gets brought up like 2 or 3 times in this conversation. Like, I just killed somebody. And Rich seems completely unfazed by like, wait, what? Like, who died? Like, how crazy is this shit getting?
Yep. Yeah, but that being said, the substance of it is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a good
we say as we tease the crap out of it.
Yeah, Duncan talks about the, the immortal curse of having to lose everyone you love. So
yeah, but Tessa makes him feel young.
Yeah, and that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's evident through what we've seen of Mac and Tess.
Yeah.
They have a good chemistry.
Totally.
But yeah, this file contributes nothing to the story.
Nope.
At all.
Nope. We'll see it again, too, and it's...
what's supposed to be in it?
I don't know.
So then, cut back to Andrew Jackson's presidential manor, and the White House, I guess, is what that's called. No, I don't know.
In some circles.
And he finds out Billy's dead.
Billy, no.
This guy's name is Billy.
This guy's name is Billy. So yeah, he's not too happy, and then he slaps Tess and calls her the B word.
Yeah.
This guy's...
That word gets a lot of traction on this show.
It does.
And I mostly just don't like I don't have a problem with the word itself. Like, it's used in the most objectionable way possible for that word.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I say the guy
this,
who said cum orgy 3 times in the source of this episode. But, like, no, it's used in the most degrading way possible. Like, it's not used as, like, a swear word, like son of a bitch. Like, it's used... like, in a way to degrade a particular woman.
Yeah, like,
and
he has her tied
upsetting.
up, he slaps her, like, he kind of is touchy, like, it's weird.
Also, I think in this season we might be 4 for 4. I think they might have used that word in every episode in that manner in this season. Maybe weird. Not in the Hunters, but I think in all the other ones. Anyway.
So, Duncan's back at the antique store, and he's still flipping through that stupid file that Richie gave him.
Yeah.
Traci Lords, I guess, shows up wearing some crazy moo-moo outfit.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I trailed off in the middle of this thought, but it just says, Greta is the most porn. Yeah, that outfit is nuts.
She gives that whole spiel again where she's like, I want to help because I can't sleep. But I also don't want to help you, and I haven't really seen anything in this vision, but blah, blah, blah. And it's like, she sees stuff and then won't elaborate on it. Just tell him what you saw. Like,
yeah, so she ends up describing her vision, which I thought was comical. She was like, and then it all just went black, but blacker.
No, she's like, so the vision ended, and she's like, no, like... in the vision, it goes black.
Duncan's like, what color are the walls? And she's like, black is black. And I was like, oh, that's another one of her movies.
Yeah, Darkness 5, black is black.
we find out that she sees that it's like an old Tudor house. Mm-hmm. And so that's like the clue, of course.
Yeah,
Just
was that
ridiculous.
it's a Tudor house with stained glass windows.
Or as they say several times on this episode, colored glass?
Colored glass. Yeah, not stained. Yeah, it's,
I've never heard
is that
that
an idiom?
before.
Like an idiom or something that I'm not familiar with?
Why
Like,
don't they just say stained glass?
Yeah.
That stuck out as weird to me. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Is
Maybe
that
I'm
like-
crazy.
I don't know. Could that be a regional thing?
yeah, that's what I'm.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm
In
wondering.
Canada, is it
No, it's
more
just colored
commonly
glass. Yeah.
referred to as colored than stained?
It bothered me.
So-
Did it bother you as much as the vision, which is what I call like her moments where she's like, it's so like fuzzy and puzzling and like
I kind of liked the visions.
you like the
I
vision.
kind of didn't like them because I felt like
I thought they
it was
were, like,
stylized
creepy.
so much that it was just like she's having a vision, but like as a viewer, I got no information from the vision. Like it was just a bunch of like streaky light and like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't garner any clues from the vision itself. Like I don't even remember seeing animal heads much in the one vision. I was like, I don't know what this is.
I liked them. I liked them. I don't know.
Traci Lords is, I guess, now invested in this thing. She's like, I can't stop thinking about it. So she writes her phone number down on a book of matches and it's like, call me to let me know what's going on so I can, like, I guess, rest easy. So that will become important later in the episode.
Also, spoiler alert, Mac never calls her back.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Mac.
Because he can't.
Right. Do we want to... We skipped over her touching his lifeline. Who? Touching his lifeline. That's another one of her movies.
Darkness 6, touch my lifeline.
But she, like... I thought this was interesting. She grabs his palm and, like, sees everything.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool bit.
My grandparents have the gift, but I don't have it.
So, Kyle, what happens with Tess next?
So Tessa finally, after a season and a third, does something heroic. Finally, like shows some actual agency, which is exactly what this character needed.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to exactly what she does, though, because she somehow uses a fork to, like, rig the door closed. And I just
Yeah.
was not... I just didn't quite get it.
I got the impression that the door's locked, so she jams, like, the keyhole. So when he can't, like, easily unlock the door, and it forces
it's the
him...
keyhole that she messes
And it
with.
forces him to, like, bust down the door. So then he busts through and it's, like, unsteady, and she's there waiting and smashes him with a chair, which is awesome.
Just explodes.
Yeah. This is really cool.
Yeah, Tessa is actually Macho Man Randy Savage.
Then she takes him down to his ring and like,
Oh
they do
yeah,
some wrestling
Jackson.
moves.
Let's make a corrupt bargain. That was actually John Quincy Adams. Whatever.
So Tess makes a heroic escape, but is foiled by the fact that I guess she freaks somebody out.
Yeah, some jerk in like a town car.
Yeah, he drives
It's like
by
woman in obvious distress.
She's screaming like crazy.
and he's like, what are you, drunk?
And he just drives away.
Yeah.
Also, then built like a suburban, bucolic looking neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and it raises no alarm.
Well, this mansion is the same mansion that's in
A bunch of episodes.
a million episodes. Most notably, what's the one with Vanity?
Oh, yeah, that might be at this place. The Revenge's Suite.
Yeah, Revenge is Sweet, Deadly Medicine. Like
They use this the exterior for
Yeah.
there's that time when Duncan buys that sword in
Yeah.
the one with Felice Martin.
Yeah.
He goes to like
Masamune?
yeah, he goes to like the sword auction or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's at this house.
Yep.
It's pretty good. Also, back at the antique store, Duncan is back at his master hacker skills again.
You know what? I'm actually going to do a rare speaking in defense of this plan.
Okay.
I feel like for once in this episode, this is at least a sane plan.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, and honestly, I feel like the internet could solve this problem maybe today.
Today, yeah.
Maybe not then. But like, this is at least an internet capable problem. It's like, I'm going to look for historical homes in the city because the stained glass window, and use that to create a list of possible locations.
Yeah.
So I at least thought, like, it's insane that he gets this from, like, Pornovision, but, like, it's at least a reasonable clue.
Sure. He finds a list of houses, I guess.
I guess he goes to check them out. And
He,
then
like, leaves to check them out, and then Richie just gets a phone call from Andrew Jackson.
it's like,
and-
tell him to meet me here.
Yeah.
Again, thus showing the futile nature of Duncan's entire quest.
Yep. So then, and this is before cell phones, so I guess Richie just can't call Duncan and say, "Oh, he's here."
Right.
So Richie hops on his hog, hightails it down to 3490 Briarcliff Street.
Yep. I'm glad you wrote that down too.
The Darkness, 3490 Briar Street.
Hey Kyle, it's 1993, and I feel like I'm not as comfortable as I should be. What should I do?
You should buy the Highlander Don't Lose Your Head boxer shorts. Look and
Oh, wait a minute.
The Darkness 12, don't lose your head.
I'm worried about putting these boxers on.
Yeah. Look and feel immortal in the original Highlander boxer, made in USA of 100% cotton. Perfect gift for yourself or that special person. Royalty purple or McLeod teal.
Very good.
Also, just to be clear about what these boxers look like, it appears that the sword hilt and like the sword like wraps around your body, and the point of the sword is pointed directly at your junk, and it says, "Don't lose your head." So I'm not sure if the implication is that you are going to be castrated by the McLeod sword, or if you're going to use your peen as a sword, like as if it is a weapon that you're going to use to decapitate another. I just don't know.
Somebody had a fun time designing these undershorts and writing that.
Well, Kyle, you've had me sold. How much do they cost?
Well, they are $19.95. And to
What
be
a
clear,
deal.
That's so expensive.
for a pair of novelty boxer shorts.
This is 1993 money, too.
Yeah. Actually, to be clear, there are in fact two different versions. The font is a slightly different color. And one of them, instead of saying "Don't lose your head" next to your peen, says there can be only one.
Which might imply other weird things about your testicles.
I like to assume. Darkness 13 might imply weird stuff about your testicles.
Very good.
So then Richie's going to go into the house, but then who pops out of the bushes?
Mac attack.
Magdeck.
He gets a Mac attack. And he's like, all right, you stay out here. I don't want to have to worry about both of you in there.
Right.
Richie-
Which he doesn't really need to do. So Duncan goes in to save Tess.
Yeah.
Richie doesn't listen and
Right.
follows, and then gets
To no end.
instantly
Right.
knocked out. So it's like the point
He
of
gets
him
literally
being,
bopped on the head.
yeah. So again, no consequences at all.
This whole thread means nothing.
Unlike like a similar episode was when Tess and Duncan in Deadly Medicine go to save Randy McFarlane. Mm-hmm. Duncan's like, "You stay outside. I'm going to take care of this." Tess does not listen, comes inside and ends up kind of helping out like a little bit. Like it's like, oh, like at least like it's good she didn't listen because she came and helped save the day. It's like that's what this should be. Like Richie should not have listened and kind of maybe been Duncan's saving grace here.
Well, or the opposite. I would have been fine if it was the opposite as well.
Oh, if
Right.
if
it was plot consequential. Instead, he just goes in, gets knocked out, and then Duncan saves the day, irrespective of him not listening.
Right.
And it's later like, oh, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Oh, just getting beaten up for no reason. And then the other thing, just like there's no tactical advantage to Richie coming in. There's no tactical advantage to Tess's escape attempt. There's no tactical advantage to Duncan solving this mystery before the guy called.
Right.
Like, all three of those things are utterly inconsequential to their final confrontation. So, like, I kind of wish that Duncan had been able to turn the tables on him in some way, or between Richie invading and Tessa's escape attempt, maybe this guy had to adjust his plan, and that gives, helps Mac figure out how to defeat this darkness strategy.
Right.
I don't know. Instead, it was all just, we knew this was coming anyway.
Right.
It's a good thing no immortals are smokers, because
or
we'd be in trouble.
Or like we have to have Richie in this scene. We have to give him something to do,
Which they failed to do.
yeah. It's really confusing.
It's really strange. So Duncan confronts Andrew Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
We get the night vision fight, but then Duncan remembers he's got these matches in his pocket from Traci Lords, so he lights them. How does he light them? He throws them in the air in pitch blackness. He can't see anything, but somehow he can manage this.
Well, he's that good.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, also, he's doing much better than poor old Jim.
Oh, yeah.
The first
yeah.
time. Like, he's actually able to kind of stave this guy off a little bit and, like, can kind of hear him and is, not completely debilitated by this.
Although he does get stabbed in the leg.
Yeah,
right?
he gets stabbed in the leg, but he's kind of holding his own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
This was a lot more believable to me of how this would go.
Right.
When you're dealing with a centuries-old master swordsman, like, that they could at least do a little something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bought into Duncan's ability to do this, and it's cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
fine.
this a lot.
It's cool. Yeah.
But he like strikes all of the matches. Like he like cuts right on like where all the match heads are. I thought it was awesome.
So this light, I guess, blinds Andrew Jackson because he's wearing the night vision. And it's so bright, and also lets Duncan see him.
Yep.
So then Duncan runs him through with his sword.
Yep.
Promptly.
Very promptly.
Darkness 7. Promptly run through.
Sword fight.
So this guy's dead. So then Duncan proceeds to go rescue Tess, who's chained up.
Yeah, when he rescues that, he just like stand back, and then he just like touches his sword to the chain.
That is hilarious. He's like, ding, and it just falls away.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
It's like, Tess, how'd you not get away? Those are made of tissue paper.
and then Richie comes in. He's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm okay too."
And it's like no one cares Richie at all. So Richie shows up. He's like, "Oh, you guys didn't miss me or whatever it is." So Duncan's like, "I thought I told you to stay outside, Richie." And Richie's like, "So sue me." It's like this line has come up again.
Then he flips over some tires.
Like, they're just spoiler alert, because I know this is the spoiler you're all on pins and needles about. The phrase "so sue me" is used an inordinate number of times in this show. Darkness 8, so sue me.
So Mac's gonna do some investigating on what this guy's all about, and he sends Tess and Richie out to the car, and they'll
he's like,
follow
"Go home."
on
Yeah.
Richie's motorcycle.
And spoiler alert, outside it's dark again. More darkness. You still can't see anything.
Yeah.
Like, did they not have the budget for a spotlight? Like, this is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, like, it's an entire episode. It's like, nobody cares about seeing the actors' faces, right?
Well, they prepared you, Kyle, with the title.
When they're outside, they're getting ready to get in the car, and somebody
walks
up and is going to rob them at gunpoint.
Yeah, he's like a meth head, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something's wrong with this guy.
So Richie doesn't have anything because he's Richie.
Yeah.
And Tess, of course, doesn't have her purse. All she has is maybe one earring and a ring, maybe.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Take this." And then we get the B word again.
Yeah.
Directed right at her.
And this guy loses it and just fucking pops him.
Yep.
Yep, both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Done.
And Mac hears it and runs out.
And has the most subdued Mac reaction ever.
Yeah.
Like, when Darius dies, he
yeah.
is like screaming and clenching his teeth and like yelling all his frustrations with the human condition to the sky.
Yeah.
And here he's just like, oh.
So she's dead.
Oh, yeah.
They both are.
Toast.
Yeah.
They're dead.
Dead. But then right before the commercial break, Richie's eyes open.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
What's that mean?
So there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
I dare say.
We get a crazy montage.
Yeah.
Dust in the wind.
And I was torn when I was watching this again. I was like, oh, like, normally this would be Queens Who Wants to Live Forever. Mm-hmm. I guess it would play here. I guess I'm a little like, I like Dust in the Wind. It's a fine song. I think I'm a little glad they've like broadened the musical universe. Like,
Me too.
you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like you can maybe get a little bogged down in the like Princess of the Universe, Who Wants to Live Forever. It's nice that the show's kind of opened up a little bit.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like this montage.
I do too.
And I bought this song off of iTunes after I watched this episode.
Did you really?
I did.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not a big Kansas fan, but I like this song.
I saw Kansas a couple years ago at a
Really?
4th of July.
Camden Waterfront?
Yeah, I saw him. It was a free 4th
How
of
was
July
it?
show. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's
raining. So I just stood in the
that's
rain and listened to this song and thought about Tess.
The last band I saw there was Los Lobos.
Oh,
I like Los Lobos.
Yeah, they're good.
So
Yeah.
this is a really random offshoot, but go listen to some Los Lobos.
They played on South Street last year.
Did they?
The Spring Festival.
Ooh. That's going to be in 2 weeks, folks.
Yeah, so...
You're right.
Did Mac always know that Richie was immortal?
Didn't they kind of set this up in the first episode?
They do.
Because Connor's
So-
like, somebody's going to have to take care of the boy.
Yeah, someone needs to watch after him, and Duncan's like, I'll handle it. So I think it recontextualizes that original scene, and it's like, oh, they must have known something. So yeah, I get the impression he always knew. Yeah.
Yeah, because like in the first thing, it's like, oh, he's just going to be like your Igor.
Right.
Yeah. he's going to be your mortal lackey.
Yeah.
Serving the mighty Dracula.
Master, I fixed the antique store. I sharpened your sword, Master.
Darkness 9. I sharpened your sword. Master.
Sword sharpeners. But yeah, like Mac's kind of looking around and there's like flashback scenes to all of their little coffee interactions. And like,
It's a sweet it's a sweet montage.
Yeah.
I miss Tess now. It's like, oh, too bad. So Duncan goes outside. It's real sad. And he throws keys to Richie and he's like, sell it.
what is he talking about? The car?
The car.
That's what I thought at first. But then I'm now thinking, was he actually talking about the antique store? Because the antique store kind of disappears after this. And is he like... Also, I don't trust Richie to sell a car, let alone an antique store.
I would trust him to sell a car.
We
I would
saw,
not
we,
trust him
we
to
saw
say-
him
yeah.
sell cars in what was that
he's
episode?
a used car salesman.
Was that Deadly Medicine?
Revenge is Sweet.
Oh, Revenge is Sweet. Right,
yeah.
yes, that's right. And he was not good at that.
No. I would not trust Richie to do a real estate deal. Like,
That's a question. What are they doing with all those antiques?
Good question.
well, he says sell it and he throws him the keys, but then they're walking toward the car.
Yeah, so...
Kind of
not sure.
confusing. And they're both in like their black mourning clothes.
Yeah. He's like, you're one of us now, Richie.
Yeah.
And that's like the sad...
And they
End of the
slow-mo
episode.
walk away. It's like reminiscent of the Hulk.
Yeah. Dr. David Banner.
So let's talk about some stuff in this episode. One thing that bugged me a lot early on was in I guess the very first like psychic visions
Vision?
we get a like gunshot. I really wish that was not present because I wish it was like, I mean, maybe it did, if this show did want to embrace some sort of like fate thing, it's like maybe Duncan did save her from that fate, but like she's still destined to die. And so it's like by saving her then she ended up just dying later. I wish that was kind of more of a surprise because I thought that kind of ruined the end a little bit.
Yeah, because we never see this guy with a gun.
Yeah.
It doesn't really seem like this guy's going to be the one to shoot her.
Yeah.
So that's odd.
I kind of just wish that ending was maybe not telegraphed earlier in the episode. It's subtle, and I don't think I would have noticed it on first watching this at all.
But I think it is always in mainstream TV shows. That's why like Game of Thrones is so popular, because the treatment of main characters is somewhat brutal. I don't think you ever expect in
No.
this show for a main character to die.
That's
main
so true.
characters feel very safe. Like I always felt like in every episode, Tessa has like a lot of plot armor on her. You know, she's not going anywhere. So I think it is fairly legitimately shocking that she does in fact die. It feels a little cheap that it's like a random act of violence, like some tweaker kills her.
So
Like
I was
that.
going to ask you about that. Like, how do we feel about her not dying? I guess like as part of this is kind of just random. This is has nothing to do with the plot. Like,
I feel like I would have bought it more if it was something like what you had said, like, oh, like Duncan changes the instance of it, but it's like Final Destination.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like death catches up with her because they changed it. That might have been a little more interesting, because otherwise, again, just another instance of nothing anyone does matters in this episode.
yeah, or if maybe there was a theme of like chance or randomness, that doesn't seem to like, especially that, like, actually that seems to be at odds with this episode, which is all about fate.
Right.
If they had played up kind of the randomness thing more, I think I would have appreciated how that kind of all ties these themes together.
I read an article, and some of the writers from this season were like, we thought a plot reason for her dying would seem more cheap because we kind of wanted to focus on in real life, like stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
Like, which I don't know if I agree with or not.
I appreciate the sentiment of what they're trying to do is that,
Yeah.
you know, this stuff does happen day to day to people everywhere.
Sure. But I mean, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Is the other part of that.
Oh, and just the notion that Mac is constantly burying people. Most of the time he's not burying them because of the game. He's burying them because they're mortal and he's not.
Right.
So I guess there is something to it. Still, I feel like if you're going to play the chip of a main character dying, I'd like to count for more. Like, I'd like to see that as a piece on the board in a larger story, rather than a random act of violence.
And you know what else is interesting too? I was wondering at what point did the writers know they wanted to kill her off? Like, I imagine they knew that she was going to leave the show.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, we talked in the past couple episodes, like 2 episodes in a row, Tess is like, I don't know why I'm with this guy. Like, this is terrible. Like, he's always, you know what I mean? Like, she seems to be really questioning things hard.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if they were also planning those things there, if they didn't know they were going to kill her off, to be like, oh, let's start, like, making her really question this relationship, and maybe she's just going to decide to leave.
Well, which almost would have made more sense, because she just literally got kidnapped.
Yeah.
Again, because of him.
Like final straw.
Like this game is literally ruining her life, and maybe she just can't take it now.
Right.
Like,
well, I read something else, and they said they decided they had to kill her because they didn't think it would work, her just saying, all right, I'm leaving. The relationship they set up with those characters is like too strong, where they didn't think it'd be believable for her. But you bring up a good point, where if she's literally being kidnapped all the time, I mean, that's pretty significant trauma.
Yeah.
How many times has she been kidnapped so far, too?
So many, right?
Like, so many.
Yeah.
She's like Princess Toadstool.
Yeah, she is. But, I mean, that's something they thought of, and they thought it wouldn't ring true or something.
Well, why don't we hear a little bit from Bill Panzer and David Abramowitz on this episode?
So we had discovered that Tessa Alexandra Vandernoot did not want to do more than a few shows in season 2, that she wanted to go back to Belgium or Paris and her new husband, boyfriend, family, whatever.
And after I went into mourning, we had to rewrite her out, which was troublesome. I felt like a jilted lover, to tell you the truth.
She was popular.
She was beautiful, and she was a wonderful actress.
They were great together.
Yep, they were heat. But I think that for her, I guess she looked at the part and looked at her career and said,
Darkness 10, heat butt.
This show is about Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. He is the Highlander. It's not the Highlander in Tessa. And I think a small part of her, being a really strong actress, wanted to play a more aggressive part in the show, and sadly the nature of the beast was that couldn't happen, and she made a decision.
That was also the case in the movies. It was always an issue of, as wonderful as the women were, was how do you have the woman be something other than a victim, a hostage, all the things that when you're dealing with an immortal hero, it's not so easy.
Right, and especially week after week after week after week, it becomes difficult. So she made a choice, and we made it work, which was a bit heartbreaking.
I wanted to bring up 2 things. I think this is interesting, what they talk about. One, I'm a little surprised that David Abramowitz was bummed out that she wanted to leave, because she doesn't do too much in the show, as we know. So, like, he I think, was one of the big reasons that Randy McFarlane leaves the show. I guess I would have expected him to be like, you know what? I think this character's run its course. Let's explore new territory. I'm a little surprised that... I'm curious what stories he would have wanted to tell with Tess.
Well, I also just get the impression from doing this that maybe they already had a lot on the board that they then needed to change. Like, I imagine that's... Yeah. I imagine her decision to leave was very, if nothing else, disruptive.
That's true.
Because even if you wanted to even if this character was eventually going to run its course, I don't feel like you're necessarily there yet. I agree, it's like an opportunity to change up the show, but one that you might not necessarily take in this specific moment.
Right.
Yeah, I also think everybody just liked her, and they might have been sad that they just don't get to work with her every day.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she works well. I think she's good on the show and everything.
And the sparks fly with Richie Ryan.
That's right. I mean, she's a good actress. I like her character. It's fine and everything. I like their relationship, but it is kind of limiting for the show, at least how they wrote her anyway.
Well, that was going to be my next point, was that it's funny that David Abramowitz and Bill Panzer acknowledge the fact that there's nothing for her to do except be a hostage. And they also even acknowledge that that's a problem in the movies. Like, they are completely aware of the role of women in this show and movie. Like, and they're like, yeah, they're just there to act as kind of bait for the villain, you know, or like to motivate the male protagonist along.
This is confusing.
And it's like, hold on, you're acknowledging that. So, and he's like, there's nothing you can do. It's like, write it different. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's plenty of stuff to move the character along. So
that's confusing.
It is a little odd. It might have been kind of a focus question. Like, I wonder if there was some reason they felt like they couldn't give her a larger role. I don't know what that reason could be, but it's almost from hearing them talk, it's like an assumption baked into it. It's like that her role must be limited within the confines of the show. And I just wonder what where that core assumption comes from. Is it like a screen time thing? Is it just because of the nature of the show? It's like, no, it has to be Mac all the time. Right. I'm just a little unclear because that does seem kind of baked into their answer.
Yeah, and also maybe to get away from this being an issue with like female characters, but like Richie is also completely not. I mean, like he has the same problem Tess does.
Oh,
like,
sure.
He's very underutilized,
and it's weird because they pair up really well together, and they seem to keep pairing them up. It's like, when Duncan's having his immortal adventure, Tess and Richie do something.
Sure.
And
we know what that something is.
Yeah.
Darkness 11, you know what that something is.
I wish they kind of, I mean, like they could have just been given that sort of like detective role. It's like they help solve the mysteries and stuff.
Sure. And did we say Max says to Richie at the end, don't lose your head?
It's true.
Don't lose your head. Don't lose your head. Don't lose your head.
So I feel like we've learned a lot of valuable lessons in this episode. So I think it's time for the...
Fighting immortals will give you a Mac attack. You ought to know by now.
You ought to know by now.
What have we learned from Mac this episode, guys?
I learned from Mac that an earring is the ultimate clue.
We should do this more often.
Valuable life lessons of Duncan MacLeod. However, Richie has taught us some other things as well.
What you don't do. Yes, welcome to What You Don't Do, the lessons we learned from Richie Ryan.
Richie, you have to get your keys ready. Always have them ready. This is like city living 101.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Get those out of your pocket right away.
Before you get to your car.
Don't bring night vision goggles to a match fight.
That is a serious what you don't do. What I learned is what you don't do is solve mysteries, because the answer is going to be handed to you if you're Richie Ryan and you wait by your phone.
Yeah.
Very good. That's what you don't do.
What's the matter with you? In all this time that you've been with me, haven't you learned anything yet?
Any other thoughts on this episode, guys?
I mean, now that we're talking about it, I kind of see all the faults with this episode, but like, I really liked it. And I think the idea that there's this mortal who like actively wants to challenge and fight immortals is awesome. Especially like
good.
With a sword. Like, I love that idea. And I almost wish maybe it was explored a little better. Like, maybe this mortal is like, I'm just as good a swordsman as you, even though you've been doing this for 400 years. Like, I want to challenge you, like a personal challenge type thing. I thought it detracted from his character that on top of him wanting to challenge immortals and maybe even kill them for this moral reason that Horton had, like, why'd they also have to make him creepy?
Well,
yeah.
That's like a real
recurring
the
theme
on this show is like people are too evil. Like, they just really retreat from a lot of these gray areas. It's like, okay, this guy, if he wants to do this thing, I'm even okay with the cheating part.
Yeah.
Like, if he wants the night vision thing, is like kind of a fun idea. It's like, don't also portray this guy like he's a serial rapist. Like,
Yeah.
don't do what you don't do is treat our 7th president. Well, he was a terrible person. I'm not going to defend him at all. Who also loved fighting duels.
Yeah.
He killed a lot of people in duels.
I mean, immortals have a serious advantage over any mortal swordsman in that they're immortal.
Yeah.
So like the cheating thing, I guess that wouldn't bother me. So, but it's like they bring this weird Silence of the Lambs thing. And in these next couple of episodes, we're also getting into this movie thing again.
Yeah.
Where they're robbing things from movies for episodes.
That's
like,
true.
Yeah.
This is Silence of the Lambs with Highlander mixed in, basically.
I would have another way this episode could have gone was maybe, I don't know, they dealt with all this taxidermy stuff on the wall, which was just set dressing and had nothing to do with this guy's character.
But
this
he's a trophy hunter. Max's trophy.
This could have been a the most dangerous game sort of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe this guy's a watcher. He's into big game hunting and stuff, and he decides, he's like, you know what, like the big prize is an immortal.
Yeah.
And he uses his Watcher connections or something to go after
That would be
Mac.
awesome.
That might be, I don't know, that's another version of this that
Yeah.
would at least have connected stuff. I don't know.
Is a mortal sword fighter ever brought up again in the show? Do we know?
I don't
That's
remember.
kind of the concept with Vanity, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
In Revenge is Sweet. She's like a highly trained mortal swordswoman who wants to fight him.
That idea is like really excites me for some reason. Like a mortal guy who fights immortals. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to like the hunter style, just like walk up and shoot him or
Yeah,
gang
like
up.
a mortal who's like, I can fight you on your own terms and win. Like there's something about that I like.
Yeah.
And I thought the intro was cool, the weird night vision thing, even though it wasn't executed that good.
I just there's just a lot that bothers me about this episode. Like there's good things about it, and I think it's obviously a very important episode because we get, Tess leaving the show and Richie Ryan grows up.
Yeah.
And those are very important things. But that being said, it's like just this episode is such a problem getting from point A to point B to point C. It's like completely crippled in like the way it gets around.
Yeah.
And the Greta thing is just like ditched forever. Like,
Yep.
I think that's
Yeah.
weird.
And like I don't know, this like kind of flirting with the supernatural component of this thing just feels completely lost in the sauce.
So Kyle, you brought
Darkness
up earlier.
12, lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce.
Kyle, you bring up the supernatural element. Why don't we segue that into our question of the week, Kyle?
So, my question of the week is, what should the role of magic be in the Highlander universe? I know in some future episodes we might revisit this territory a little bit, but as we sit now, what do we think its role should be?
Right. And so
should there be any kind of magic?
And with these questions of the week, we obviously know there's a lot of stuff coming that will answer some of these questions. But yeah, like you said, should it be there? Like if we went purely by what the canon of Highlander is, they're all from another planet. It gets into some weird territory that I don't know if it should be there or not. So this is more of a thought experiment regarding this particular episode, not what the canon of the show is. So because we can all Wikipedia that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that there are immortals and that by that there are other supernatural things. Like I think that idea could be interesting and maybe could be cool to explore, like vampires or something, which I know is coming up. But like I think that kind of dichotomy could be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want there to be like wizards and
right. I personally am not a big fan of this unless you're dealing with like hard fantasy. If this is like Lord of the Rings and there's elves and wizards and like or Harry Potter, like the world's blown open, like that's the world it is. But it also exists purely in a fantasy world, like the whole world is fantasy. I find sometimes when like there's so much I can like suspension of disbelief, and it's like this is a show that exists in the real world. Especially, I mean, like, the movie sets that up. The first season sets it up. I mean, there's cops, there's reporters. Like, they really try to ground a lot of it, and it's like, and there's immortals that fight each other. All right, I can buy into the one like hash mark next, the asterisk next to what this real world is. But then, like, how many of these kind of asterisks are we going to add to this world? It's like, oh, and there's this, and at some point, I kind of stop buying into this as being relatable or believable. For me, I kind of just have trouble when they introduce too much kind of fantasy stuff.
Yeah, so I guess on one track, I have no problem believing that there are other supernatural things that exist in the world of Highlander. Like, that doesn't seem inherently contradictory to me. I just think it becomes problematic from a storytelling point of view when they start to become introduced and it becomes this kind of inconsistent background noise in the Highlander universe. And I feel like there could be a very interesting Highlander show where the gates to this are more open. We're like still set in the present day. It's like there are other things out there and we're following one of these kinds of things, but like every once in a while worlds collide and, you know, maybe there are these people with psychic powers and they're one subset of this, and maybe there are, I don't know, shape-changing things out there, and that's fine. and it might be interesting to see those things in the past when like these mythical creatures were reigning free, and that could be interesting territory.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that needs to be like a deliberate choice about what kind of show this is and like what it's like. And I just feel like they dipped their toe into this pond, and that's just distracting.
I would agree.
That just makes me think, like, why is Greta in this episode at all? Like
it's
you guys said,
unnecessary.
Why isn't it just Joe?
It should be.
Every clue that he gets could have come from Joe in a much more believable way and in a much more realistic sounding thing. Like maybe he goes to Joe, he gets a description of a guy who was a big game hunter who like went off the reservation, and that's kind of an insensitive saying, isn't it?
Hey, we're talking about Andrew Jackson here. So
so Andrew Jackson, we could just, you know what I mean. He violates the rules. Maybe he gets kicked out. He's a big game hunter. He gets a better physical description than he's just a blonde-haired guy. Then the taxidermy thing becomes more believable because you've got a better physical description and a reason why he might actively be participating in these things. I just feel like the changes don't even need to be that big.
Do we think this Greta thing was another episode at some point? I'm curious. Maybe we should ask Mr. Abramowitz next time we talk to him. If did they know when she was leaving? Like, was this a surprise that it was going to be like in the 4th episode? Like,
yeah, maybe.
Maybe they were like, oh, let's just graft this whole plot onto something else.
Yeah, like maybe they had to tack it on. Like they had Tracy already, and they're like, uh-oh, like now we just have to make it happen now.
Yeah, because I mean, also for a show that has like seems to make a fairly big deal of its guest stars, like they are the big, like they're the villain of the week or something, and it's like, well, they had Traci Lords on, who was not unknown, like at all. Like I think especially like a teenage audience who might be watching this show would be very excited to see Miss Traci Lords on their favorite Highlander show. But yeah, I don't know if she was supposed to be a different part or something. Like she almost has no role in it. Like it's kind of boring, and why is it played by her? I don't know.
The whole thing's baffling.
Yikes. So
Zeist.
let us know. Write us at HighlanderRewatched@gmail.com to let us know what you think the role of magic should be in Highlander, if you had to kind of redefine what this world would be, or if it should not be there at all, and like just tell us your thoughts on our discussion, what you think.
One side thought, and I just thought of this, and I feel like there could actually be an interesting show here, like an interesting mood for a show here, combining the kind of feel of the movie with like these higher fantasy, more magical elements. I think would actually be pretty compelling if you've got like this kind of gritty like noir atmosphere from the movie, but instead of just like going and talking to some lowlives, it's like, yo, we gotta go talk to the like Greta the psychic, like to get the straight dope.
Well, the movies definitely tackled that in a big way. Like the show again dips its toes in there, but like we'll see in Highlander 3, Endgame, the sword, like they get full on into this like magic thing.
Yeah, but at those points the noir element is gone.
That's also true.
I think that actually could be some kind of fun television. Yeah, is like a hard noir, hard fantasy show set in modern day.
Totally,
that would be cool.
Oh, here's something just kind of funny. So I was looking at the Watcher Chronicles for this episode, and there's like a full Watcher entry on the immortal James, who we only see like a second of. James! And they give him like a crazy backstory for someone that we never, ever see again. James Vincent always seemed an unlikely candidate to be a writer of children's books.
Wow.
What?
Like, what? Like, why did they settle on this? Eternally young, handsome, charming, he was more suited to be David Bowie than Dr. Seuss.
What?
Yeah.
Why'd they choose David Bowie for that?
I don't know.
He was more suited to be a gender bending icon than.
But James had always loved children and was able to talk to them in a special way through his books. Like this goes on, and his wife's a librarian, and it's, you know, and then it's little did anyone think when the day came that the man with the sword would be mortal and a watcher. I am ashamed of my profession. This is
ashamed of my profession.
This is a very strange.
Watching isn't what it used to be.
But what an odd backstory for a mortal, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it, I suppose, but there's no basis for any of that. It's like
I guess I kind of like the idea that he's supposed to be. I guess I'm trying to portray him. He's gentle. He's the exact opposite of someone that a hunter would, legitimately want to harm.
Right.
Do Watchers get a salary for watching?
They must. Seems like a full-time gig.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or is it just for the love of the game?
And on that note, please join us next week for episode number 5, I49. We've been your Rewatchers. I'm Keith.
This is Kyle.
This is Aiden.
Bye. Or you might know her from Lust in the Fast Lane, Bad Girls 3, Breaking It, Miss Passion, Night of Loving Dangerously, Open Up Tracy, The Sex Goddess, Those Young Girls, Talk Dirty to Me Part 3, Sexy Shorts, What Gets Me Hot, Future Voyeur, Harlequin Affair, Holly Does Hollywood, Hollywood Heartbreakers, Hot Pink, Huge Bras 3, It's My Body, Genie, Just Another Pretty Face, Kinky Business, Ladies in Lace, Erotic Zones, Volume 1, Erotic Gold, Electric Blue 28, Adventures of Tracy Dick, The Case of the Missing Stiff, Another Roll in the Hay, Aroused, Blackthroat, Country Girl, Diamond Collection 69, Diamond Collection 73, Dirty Pictures, Dream Lover, Educating Mandy, Electric Blue 20, Electric Blue 21, Love Bites, New Wave Hookers, One Hot Night of Passion, Tracy's Dilemma, Swedish Erotica 57, Swedish Erotica 60, Sweet Little Things, Tailhouse Rock, Talk Dirty to Me, Part 4, Two Timing Tracy, We Love to Tease, Wild Things, Young and Restless 2, Susie Superstar 2, Sizzling Suburbia, Sister Dearest, Sex Waves, Passion Pit, Peekaboo Gang, Perfect Fit, Physical 2, Pleasure Party, Pony Girl, number 2, Porn in the USA, Portrait of Lust, Private Fantasies 5, Sex Fifth Avenue, Sex Shoot, Pony Girl, The Grafenberg Spot, Tracy in Heaven, Tracy Takes Tokyo, Beverly Hills Copulator, Fantasies, Foxy Boxing, or Hot Cum Orgy.